Good afternoon. Sorry, a couple of minutes late. Exchanging pleasantries with Pete. He's absolutely over the moon about the Packers beating the beating the Bears, and he actually sent me a YouTube video. What's it called again? Let's just see what he sent me. It's called "The Bears Still Suck." Oh, that's funny. So I wonder if Charlie Berens is aware of this song. I wonder if he could, because they use to rhyme with suck. You know, there's only so many words you can use, and one of them is luck. It's, you know, the idea is that the Chicago Bears have only ever got where they got through luck. And I'm just wondering if Charlie could come up with any other words that could rhyme with suck. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Let's get on to the serious issue, which I really wanted to share. Hi, Darkside. Hi, Alice. And hi, Sharon. I make no apologies for showing this again, and I will keep showing it and keep showing it until the guilters understand. They are very thick. I would have to say they are very dense at times, and they don't actually seem to understand. So certainly, Sharon, you've read this before, but I'm just going to read it again because this is so important. An accusation has been leveled at me time and time again that telling this story is disrespectful to the victim and her family. I disagree. What is disrespectful to anyone is accepting at face value information which is demonstrably false, scenarios which make no logical sense, and gaping holes covered over to shore up weak and questionable explanations, especially when that information, those scenarios and explanations are used specifically to bring a false sense of closure to the grieving and bereft, and at the same time to rob innocent people of their freedom. Truth-seeking is a precarious and often maligned pursuit. To be labelled a crazy conspiracy theorist, interfering do-gooder, fame-seeker, evil, well, obviously, in my case, some people think that somehow that I'm committing some grotesque act of evil. A murderer lover, a sicko. These are the reactions of many who are afraid of the truth. That fear is understandable, particularly when you consider that most of these people, they have got direct connections with the bad actors in Manitowoc. We believe that justice and those we trust to take care of justice for us are the very foundations on which our safety and security are built. If they cannot protect us, who can? But those who react so negatively out of fear and just hatred miss the most central point to truth-seeking. It is not only to ensure the correct person has been convicted, but also to discover what really happened. In this case, to a 25-year-old girl whose death is unimaginable. And of course, those words are by a great author, Dr. Sandra Lane. I'm going to show my age. I was very good pals with her dad when he worked in Melrose. It's a very small world indeed. As I say, I make absolutely no apologies for asking questions, for asking the questions that law enforcement and the journalists should have asked. Hi, William, and hi, Alice. Nice to see you. And I'm always reminded of Dave Bagotka's message to me, and that was that guilters, they simply stand on Teresa's grave and hurl insults at those who are asking questions. One of the common themes is this idea that you're just raking through the past, making it bad for the family. I say I'd really like to know why the Halbach family needed a family spokesperson when you've got Ken Kratz, who loves doing press conferences, why he agreed to split the press conferences between himself and Mike. Well, it's pretty obvious. It's to try and bring the Halbach family in line with the police. We love the police, said Mike. And what about if it transpires, as most likely, that it was the police who themselves who were responsible for the disappearance of your sister? For the disappearance of your sister, meanwhile, one day after she's disappeared and reported missing, you are grieving. So, I've got a little thing that I found the other day, yesterday in fact, that I'd like to share with you. I'm not going to go through the whole book, just this first bit. Oh, no, we're not going to go for that one. We'll go for this one. Here we go, because it's easier for me to manipulate. So this is Murder, This Could Never Happen to Me, a handbook for families of murder victims and people who assist them. Let's move on down to the next page, which is completely blank. Oh, well, here we go. I didn't know life could be so grim. I didn't know the meaning of human suffering. Yeah, let me just take one moment out just to make sure everything is as it should be, which it does seem. Seems to be okay. Yeah, good. I need to keep doing the arrow down. But so, as I say, Murder, This Could Never Happen to Me, a handbook for families of murder victims and people who assist them. This is a revised edition, 2001, by Jerry Harris, and was developed and funded by a grant from the Office of the Governor, Criminal Justice Division of Austin, Texas. The fact that you are reading this book probably means that someone you know, well, yeah, we certainly feel like we knew Teresa or love, has been murdered. You may have believed that this could never happen to you, but murder, once a rare event in the United States, has become an epidemic, with a rate of 10 murders for every 100,000 people. Whether we realize it or not, murder has become a frequent incident in the lives of ordinary people. No one deserves to be murdered, not because they are old or infirm or exhibit behavior others disagree with. Not for any reason. You shall not murder is one of the oldest rules of society and one of the earliest restrictions society placed on one person's behavior towards another. A single murder can tear at the fiber of an entire community or even leave scars on a nation. Murder brings ordinary persons into involvement with the coroner. Well, not in Manitowoc County. This doesn't apply in Manitowoc County. They don't need a coroner. What does a coroner do? He simply comes in and kicks a body and says, yep, they're dead. So we can scrub out that word. But murder brings ordinary people into involvement with, well, not the coroner, but the police, the district attorney and special prize district attorneys, the judicial system, and the totally inept media. To investigate and try one case can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yes, in the case of Steve, I think the figure was 1.1 million. And if the killer is not apprehended or brought to justice, again, that definitely applies to Manitrock. Definitely applies to Manitrock. 18 years when it was Gregory Allen. They knew it was Gregory Allen, but they wanted to get Steve. Clouds of suspicion can linger, and other citizens may even be endangered. Exactly. Worst of all, however, are the psychological wounds on the survivors, wounds as deep and serious as those that killed their loved ones. These wounds are not always obvious, but they cannot be ignored, or they, like physical wounds, will fester and grow worse. This handbook is designed to help family members of murder victims recognize and move toward healing these psychological wounds. Okay, so this part of the book is specifically aimed at the likes of Mike Halbach. Right, so if Mike, if you at some point you watch this is, listen to this. This is important. Okay, this next bit. Okay, information has been provided on critical questions that may be faced, such as, should I view the body, or do I have to talk with the press? The handbook is also designed to benefit those persons who help and support families of murder victims during the overwhelming process of recovery. The handbook is not perfect or complete, but it provides the chance to share the rage and pain and terror that result from hearing about the experience of other victims. It is from the experiences of loved ones of murdered victims that this book is compiled, and it is dedicated to their courage. So this was Carol Mackay and Christine Siegfried in 1987. Acknowledgements here. The Criminal Justice Division of the Office of the Governor of Texas originally published this small book in 1987. It was distributed free to families of murder victims. It has been my honor to work with many of these families, and I have gained knowledge through their grief and trauma. This book is a way to share that knowledge with others. Several other states, along with local police and district attorneys, use this book for distribution and training. The book has always been and is intended still for victims. To them it is dedicated. Eventually the first edition became outdated and needed revision. Anna and Ellen of the Texas Crime Victim Clearinghouses suggested that the book be updated. They offered extensive and ongoing help with the revision. Thanks also to Linda Starnes and Sybil of the Victim Services for their input. Joanne Starkey took charge of obtaining the photographs. Suma revised the section on children, complete with age references. Christy Jack, a Tarrant County Assistant District Attorney, updated the sections on bail, parole, and the District Attorney's Office. The Victims Assistance Offices of the Fort Worth and Dallas Police Departments helped update the sections on victims' assistance and police investigations. Numerous family members of murder victims read the text and gave suggestions. I thank them all. Without their help, the revision would not exist. Finally, I wish to thank my editor, Erin. The flow of the text and the readability of the content has much to do with her knowledge and skill. The errors and omissions are mine. Like the 87 edition, this book is designed to help victims, families, and to benefit persons who help and support families of murder victims. Hopefully it will serve as a light for a dark and fearful path. So, learning to cope after tragedy. We're just going to have a look at the very first bit of this, because this is the bit that that's important. I'll have a look at chapter 11 another time. Learning, section 1, learning to cope after tragedy. Of course, Mike Halbach has already started grieving. He already knows that Teresa has met her demise. Coping with the death of a loved one is always difficult. When that loved one is murdered, death the police investigation, the media attention, and the chaos surrounding the murder creates a situation so difficult and complex to cope with that the trauma is only matched by living in a war zone. Not only has the victim's life been willfully taken, but the survivors and witnesses also have been violated. They too become victims. These survivors experience overwhelming shock and grief. They do not know how to feel or behave. Immediately following a murder, family members may appear to be coping well. However, even though parents may continue to go to work and the children go to school, all is not well. Family members feel estranged from each other and outsiders. It is not uncommon for parents to refuse to talk about a murdered child or refuse to enter the bedroom of the deceased. They may feel isolated as friends and colleagues, not sure how to react, and frightened by the murder, distance themselves. Additionally, family members may feel stigmatized by the murder and the complicated series of legal events and procedures that can cause further isolation and prolonged recovery. Understanding the grief families experience and the obstacles they face in resolving their suffering is important to families, friends, and those that work with these family members. Family members of murder victims must try to prepare themselves at least as much as possible for the turmoil that will surround them for days, months, or years following a murder. They must also realize that friends, professionals, clergy, and other families of murder victims can be important tools for assisting them in their long, slow, and painful journey to recovery. Now, here's the bit that's important. The process of grief. Grief is a common human experience. People experience grief when they leave particular places, when they divorce, when someone they know dies. But grief for families of murder victims has unique qualities. It is more profound, more lingering, more complex. Murder changes normal reactions and responses and, without a doubt, influences the length of time necessary to resolve grief. It intensifies feelings and makes the journey to recovery for family members long and slow and difficult. So not quite the 2 days that Mike Halbach's going to be grieving for there. Just as families, people, and cultures differ, grief takes on a great many forms. Men and women experience grief in different ways. Even a person's religious beliefs can affect the way grief is experienced. There are certain phases in grief, but it is important to understand that most individuals will not go through these phases in a rigid and fixed manner or in a sequence. Some may experience many feelings at once, while others may cope with grief one step at a time. The way these phases are experienced by survivors of murder victims may also differ somewhat from the way they are experienced by others. However, the 10 steps in the grieving process, according to psychologist Anna Westberg, follow. 1. Shock. 2. Emotion. 3. Depression and loneliness. 4. Physical symptoms of distress. 5. Panic. 6. Guilt. 7. Hostility and resentment. 8. Inability to return to usual activities. 9. Hope. And 10. Affirming reality. These steps or phases may occur repeatedly over the first several years following a murder and often occur in no logical sequence. In fact, any and all each phase may occur again and again over time. Shock is almost always the first stage of grief experienced by a survivor. Shock protects the survivor from experiencing the total extent of the reality of murder all at once. In fact, murder is so alien to human experience and so devastating that it is not unusual for family members to think this is a bad dream This is not happening. During this time, family members commonly say, I don't believe it. I just can't believe it. There is a part of the mind that does not want to accept the murder as real and thinks the loved one is alive and may appear at any time. These feelings often make the family members think they are crazy. In fact, it is a part of the shock and disbelief of grief. As I say, I do get really fed up of people suggesting that it was just a, it was just a slip of the tongue by Mike to refer to the grieving process could last days. As I said so many times before, family members, they are the last ones, because they are in shock. And remember, Mike Halbach says the grieving process, he knows something has happened to Teresa, and this grieving process could last days. There's something wrong there, isn't there? Because they are the last people. We've read it in that document. They are the last. Family members are simply the last people to accept anything bad has happened to a loved one. They even need the evidence, don't they? They actually need to go and see the death certificate, or to actually see the family member in the morgue. I'm going to have a little read of the next bit about dealing with the media, because that's going to be interesting. See what they say. So, we'll catch you all again soon. Sorry if I'm firing these at you very quickly. I will slow down as I move back from holiday mode to full-time work mode. Okay, so I do apologise for the avalanche of videos that's coming at the moment, but don't worry. As I say, I will slow down, and we'll get you give you a bit of a break for a few hours or so. I'm only kidding. Okay, catch you all later. Cheers. Bye for now.